Adult expressions of attachment issues. This is integrative psychology through the lens of anatomy and physiology as it relates to attachment. Attachment, adaptations, and survival styles. So when a person develops what is seen and known as insecure attachment, all aspects of their life is affected. From their behavior in romantic relationships and in the workplace to how they ultimately parent their own children. A question to ask is, what is driving the behavior, both from a psychological perspective to what is happening physiologically? That is the emphasis of this PowerPoint. I want to, again, really emphasize that this is a perspective for understanding, not any kind of accusation or blame or intention of making anyone feel bad. I want to reiterate that when we have knowledge and curiosity about our inner states, we can then make changes in how we function in the world. So behaviors are those external mannerisms that are done outwardly. It is truly how something is done. When we talk about actions, they are methods or ways that humans act or react in particular situations to fulfill an objective or attain a goal. Simply, it is what is done. The thoughts are defined as mental activity, internal musings made up of conscious cognitions that can and do happen independently of any kind of sensory input. And some underlying elements are those things that drive behaviors, actions, and thoughts. They are very often below the level of consciousness unless and until the lens of critical thinking is applied. When we can engage in self-reflection, self-critique, and increase our levels of self-awareness, then and only then can we make true lasting change in our behaviors, actions, and thoughts. Talking about adult expressions of their attachment styles. The adult attachment interview was created by Main and Goldwyn in the late 90s, and it asks open-ended questions related to memories from childhood, relationships, and early life experiences. Analysis includes not only what is said, but how it is said regarding emotional content and affect, gaps in memory and information, as well as the overall quality of the information. There is also the Adult Attachment Questionnaire, which uses a Likert scale related to how strongly a statement is agreed to or disagreed to. And both of these assessment tools have been shown to accurately predict the attachment style of the person's child. This has important implications in how behaviors, actions, and thoughts and underlying elements get passed down through the generations. So the picture, the little diagram over on the right-hand side, is a conceptualization used in the Adult Attachment Questionnaire, and it kind of gives a visual on where people would lie on the scale. When we talk about secure attachment, remember, ultimately, secure attachment is about learning to regulate fear. When a child is securely attached, they learn to manage the ups and downs of life with relative ease. They become adults that behave in a manner that is consistent with a shared reality, that though there may be challenges, they can be dealt with either through self-agency or connections to other people. So when we talk about adult expressions, their behaviors, actions, and thoughts are balanced and in line with what is happening in the world outside of their inner world. They develop coping skills that are healthy and supportive of health. This is not to say that there aren't moments of upheaval or upset. It is to point out that those moments just don't cause overwhelm in their system and the systems of those around them. When we talk about behaviors, they're consistent and match collectively perceived reality. Tasks are completed as they present themselves. They maintain healthy boundaries and balance with work and personal life. When we talk about their actions, again, with healthy boundaries, those with a secure attachment style are able to say yes or no as is appropriate without any kind of fear of reprisal. They tend not to engage in fear-based behaviors or actions. Their thoughts are consistent with what is happening around them. They are engaged in a healthy level of internal dialogue that works on balance between self-assuredness and self-doubt without leaning too far to one side or the other. When we talk about someone that has an avoidant attachment style, remember this pattern of attachment is in part created through caregiving that feels rejecting and controlling. The child adapts to the environmental failure in ways that gets their needs met and in the most successful way. So an adult expression of that is a person with this attachment style. They grow up to be someone that appears to be very capable, self-assured, and confident, but does not feel that way internally. People may state that they have something referred to as imposter syndrome, which means they secretly fear that someone will eventually figure out that they are a complete fraud. This person minimizes their own emotional needs, again, fearing that they will be seen as needy and an annoyance. There is an internal state of arousal and anxiety that the person may not be aware of because they've been that way their entire life. It can be challenging to let their guard down for fear that something bad will happen. It's like the other shoe will drop is a common statement. Again, they appear externally to be very put together, but internally they struggle to relax. They are often disconnected from themselves and others, physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. When we talk about behaviors, they show up as not asking for help or struggling to ask for help. It's sort of a mentality of if I ask for help, they're going to see that I'm truly incompetent. This behavior is not out of stubbornness, it is out of fear. There is a disconnection from needing anything. This adult's actions is about working really, really hard to prove or show that they are competent all on their own. Their thoughts or self-talk is about bolstering the self. I can do this all on my own, or something like, why am I such a loser? I need to ask for help. I can't even believe that I'm unable to do this by myself. There's kind of often super awesomeness or super suckiness kind of dialogue that goes back and forth in an internal dialogue with this person. Somebody that has an ambivalent attachment style is an anxious attachment. They were raised with caregivers who were insensitive, unreliable, and inconsistent in their responses. The adult expression of this is a person that is or appears to be on the edge more often than not. Their emotions are just under the surface or not even that. It doesn't take much to upset them. They may often accuse others of being insensitive, not caring, not understanding of what they are going through. In a relationship, they may be overly suspicious or jealous of their partner. Their behaviors can be related to compulsive checking of emails or for text messages or asking questions repeatedly in an attempt to find out if someone's lying or telling the truth or being loyal or whatever. The actions of a person with this attachment style is seeking external validation for their internal feelings of fear and anxiety. The inner state feels very shaky and unsure. This person's internal thoughts are ones of self-doubt and self-judgment. Somebody with a disorganized attachment style they experience the most inconsistent parenting. They experience some of the most damage of all the attachment styles. Remember, their parents or caregivers were often overtly abusive or completely unavailable because of their own struggles with mental health and substance use issues. An adult expression is that of someone that feels isolated, ignored, and even bad. The world is experienced as a dangerous place with nowhere that feels entirely safe. Their behaviors can be related to mannerisms that seem odd or eccentric, maybe even obsessive and compulsive. The behaviors may be either an attempt to keep people close or to push them away. The underlying actions are for the same reasons. The actions are aimed at creating safety and calming the internal chaos. So externally, the behaviors may not make sense, but internally there is definitely a purpose. Their thoughts are related to the world, again, not being a safe place. So there could be a great deal of mental chatter around how to feel safe or how to just kind of be safe. In summary, remember that these behavioral patterns show up most prominently during times of distress. A person can appear as in control or put together, but when stressed, display behaviors that appear to be disorganized. Also, this is not a cut and dried formulaic way of looking at people and behaviors. Attachment issues can be narrow or they can be very broad. They can be in combinations and are most often contextual. A person can be calm, cool, and collected in one area of their life and a complete mess in another. This is a generalization and a simplification as a way to see maybe some of the reasons or underlying pieces that go into a person's behaviors, actions, and thoughts. It is an attempt to normalize what may appear to be abnormal. I want to talk a little bit just about resilience and growth. So leaving you with some hope around all of this. So just because someone grows up in chaos does not mean that they are destined to a life of struggle and misery. In fact, just the opposite is often true. How a person manages their life's difficulties is dependent upon multiple factors, including their own internal drives. There can be touchstones along a person's life's journeys that are also important in helping a person thrive in the face of adversity. A caring, supportive family member, a teacher, or a neighbor, an important social group like church or school, or an organization that gives a person a bit of respite from what they may be experiencing at home. So all of these things can act as anchors to live a very full life. So again, this is just a broad conceptualization just to start to give you an idea about how some of these patterns may end up showing up in a person's life. And your references.